Oosh, 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 oosh. Hey, welcome, my brothers. Thank you for joining us for this podcast. It's been something that, we've been talking about for a while. And I think just our backgrounds and what we do and the work we do, this is interesting to myself also. So
Yeah.
I'm sure others are going to catch on. So we are all established medicine men here. Been working with the medicine myself long time, over 10 years. And for the past 5 years nonstop, just serving medicine, as you guys know. And I'm fucking sick of it. So I'm looking to just transition out into other avenues where I can serve without actually having to run ceremony and hold that sacred space. So yeah, I'll let you guys introduce yourself and your background and
Yeah.
get started.
Yeah. It's good to be here, guys. Been looking forward to this for a while as well. Name is Maxwell Honey. I've been also serving plant medicine, psychedelic medicine for a very long time. And in between all of that, I'm also doing a lot of non-medicine based trauma work, healing, coaching, this kind of thing. Feeling the calling also, as you said, bro, to kind of transition a little bit out of that space and a little bit more into a very integrated space where, trauma and nutrition and just general health are more at the forefront, because I'm seeing that there's, as we talked about a lot, a lack in the market for fully integrated holistic approaches that cover, everything. I think we'll get into it today a little bit, but one of the things at the forefront of my mind right now is just inner child work, because I've had some really deep experiences recently with that kind of came out of the blue. But now I'm like totally convinced that that's like an area I want to lean into. So yeah.
Yeah, guys, happy to be here as well. So yeah, I guess I come from a different perspective. I grew up with ADHD, and then I got very early into addiction. And so when I got out of my addiction, my work revolved a lot around that, helping people with addiction and ADHD, and especially younger people between 14 and 24. Because it did feel like, I went through this whole process of all these struggles just to get the answers to kind of be able to serve other people who are going through the same things. I always felt really calling to work with these people. And so that's what I've been doing now for the last about 8 years. And during this whole time, also during my addiction, plant medicine was a big part of it. And, I do feel like it's one of the reasons why I got out of it, is because of the medicine I was using on the side. When I got sober, I took quite a while off everything and just to stabilize myself, but I always kind of knew that I wanted to get back to the medicine. And so that's what I did some years ago, and I started serving, and now I'm kind of in this place where I wanna infuse both of them together, like working with addiction together with plant medicine, which is quite a controversial area. Yeah. And since I used to be a part of NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and there it's either or. Anything that messes with your consciousness, with your state of being.
Chemistry.
Chemistry is considered like a relapse or a drug.
Yeah.
So there is some stigma, I feel, to be broken here, and yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get in some of that today.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, because I feel like just given our three individual backgrounds, and now doing, or at least for me, have been doing medicine work full time, it just makes for an interesting story. Because we're not. So for those that don't know, like when we talk about plant medicine, we're talking about indigenous native medicine, and there's a big stigma that if you're not part of the culture, if you didn't grow up in the Amazon or the tribes or the desert or wherever, you're not a real medicine man. But for us, like the medicines we work with, I work with ayahuasca. Max mainly works with Gambo, and David Iboga. And the medicines we work with just require a lot of deep initiations in the material, the astral, and the spiritual. And transitioning from kind of living and growing up in a Western culture into this medicine work, you develop big shifts in perspective. But at the same time, I don't believe that like the medicine is for a specific group of people only to hold space for. It's for anyone who's being called to it, you know.
Yes.
And you know, I'll just share a bit about my background. You know, my background is in martial arts. I do jiu-jitsu. I've competed professionally. I've taught martial arts for many years. And even that background, when I was younger, it transitioned me onto this path in ways that back then I wouldn't have even guessed.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Having this kind of like warrior protective energy. And even like the hardships, as David was talking about, like addiction, just being fucked up, like going through a hard life, you know, as a man, for me personally, you can either use that as fuel or like a diamond, right? Like you either transform under pressure into something greater, or you just get crushed by it. And I think like a lot of men or women, everybody, right? Like they don't know how to do that transmutation of like your past, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we share a similar thread with the martial arts as a grounding mechanism for just emotion, the nervous system. You know, I was doing Japanese martial arts in particular for, almost 20 years. And in that process of also had a lot of addictions. So David and I think all of us have some amount of that as a early background in let's call it childhood. But just to say that like without that thread, without that warrior thread or that grounding thread, I probably wouldn't have made it out the way that I did. Like that was in some way the foundation that brought me out of when I stopped drinking, smoking, using drugs as a teenager. It was basically, I just went fully into the martial arts path for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have that, I don't think I could have stopped cold turkey. I don't think I would have had, I would have no chance without that community also, because the community aspect was like the antidepressant that kept things rolling for me.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, like I find that, you know, people who do work in this field, if you've come from a life of like martial arts or even just a life of crime, let's say, you can kind of transition between both realms and come back grounded.
Yeah.
Easier, you know, because you have the experience.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
And I guess this background also with crime and with addiction and all of it is just serves as a way of guiding other people who's going through the similar things. Because I mean, there's a lot of people and I saw this a lot with working with young people specifically, because they're more receptive to this, which is you have people who come in who's, you know, they've studied a lot and they've read a lot of books and they have a lot of educations and they went to all the universities and so on, and you know, they know all of it intellectually. And they come to these people and they try to help them with a good heart, but it's not as easy to receive it. But then when you have someone who's gone through all these things, gone through all these struggles, have a background in crime, for example, or addiction or whatever, there is some kind of energetic resonance that happens. And these people are much more able to not only receive the message or the teachings or whatever you want to call it, but also just energetically kind of tap into your history and what you've been through and how you came out of it, not just with your words, but just with your presence. And I think that has a profound effect that's not spoken about enough.
Yep.
Yeah, and it also develops trust. Like, you know, like being in such intense or extreme situations when you're younger and moving and maneuvering through them is also like the medicine space, because you can just stay calm and centered even when, you know, spirits are around, everyone's losing their shit. You know that like you're the anchor for people as well.
Yes.
The experience comes from the past. Like, you know, like I'll share something a bit crazy, but it's like, you know, when we serve medicine, we are under the medicine ourselves most of the time. And to transition from that into being back into, let's say, a normal human being, it takes a lot of grounding, and it takes a flexible mind that allows you to come back into this ego,
Yes.
you know, like,
Yes.
and in crime, it's like when I was a teenager, I would go out, I would rob people, I would rob stores and everything. And the next day, I just have to be a student, I have to be a son, I have to be this and that.
Right.
And I still kind of have to just bring myself back, you know?
Mm.
Whereas now, like, I'm traveling to different realms and dimensions. The next day, I still have to be a functional member of society. And my mind's able to make that jump because I'm so used to the extremes of it all.
Yeah.
And that maybe can lead us to our next point. It's like, you know, when you practice or when you do ceremony or medicine that's not in the jungle or the deserts or the forest, people aren't prepared to make that shift back into daily life.
Right.
Like, they do a mushroom journey, they do a LSD or whatever, and they think like, oh, I can just do that and then go straight to work the next day.
Right.
But that's so harsh on the psyche, you know? Like the shamans in Peru, like the jungle's their life.
Yeah.
They do ceremony the next day. It's just a jungle. You know, it's not like fucking ads and bombardment and
Right.
women on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's just the nature, you know.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you're speaking about integration, which is something that we talk a lot about in this kind of the reintegration process. But then, like, for me, there's also the thread of like when you've had a really hard ceremony experience and you're trying like, it's both what you're doing with yourself, but then it's also like you're going back to a context. Like, you're going back to a living context with people who have grids, energetic processes of their own. And if they're seeing you the way that they used to see you, but you're seeing yourself in a brand new way, but you're going back to that context, they just unconsciously reinforce your old personality to you. And then over and over again, it doesn't really matter how many ceremonies you do, because if you're going back to the same context and you're not willing to have that confrontation with the people in your life, you're just gonna be reabsorbed right back into the same scenario, and in 6 months you're gonna be right back where you were.
100%. And you know, like, this is something we've touched on a lot because we all do integration work and coaching. It's like you can do 1,000 ayahuasca ceremonies and be the same person, you know, in the next day or in a couple of weeks with your same neuroses and your same fucking trauma loops, because you haven't actually released it. You've just relived it.
Right.
Felt such bliss or oneness or transcendental states.
Mm.
And then you don't put in the work to like integrate lessons or use it to actually change your day-to-day life to be happier.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people just like after such a high of psychedelics, they push away the lows. They're just like, fuck, I don't want to experience that shit again. You know, like I'm an enlightened being now. I don't need this in my life, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was it that said that if you think you're enlightened, try go home living with your parents?
Yeah, around
Says,
Fucked up.
yeah. And I mean,
that's it.
yeah, exactly. And it's such a prominent thing. Like you think that you've done a lot of change, and you think you become like a completely new person, but as soon as you then go back to these old places with these old people, it's so easy to just fall back because of what you're talking about, which is the perception of other people.
Right.
So what do you guys feel like is how do you handle a situation like that when you've made change? It's obvious, but the people around you, they don't acknowledge it, and they kind of subconsciously want you to go back to the person that you used to be,
that they knew.
Exactly, yeah, because that's more comfortable. And I mean, it's not a conscious thing. Of course, everybody wants the best for you and everybody wants you to change and evolve, but subconsciously, it's a little bit uncomfortable when somebody changes.
Yeah, definitely. Like, even from myself, you know, when you're used to someone being a certain way your whole life, and, you know, you kind of like go to different realms with certain people and just like different shadow realms for me anyways, and you enjoy that. And when someone makes a big shift, it's like you're missing a part of that you can resonate with, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess for me, that's where the real challenge lies. It's with like the close relationships, like your romantic partners,
Yes.
your mom, your dad, you know? And like for me, I guess it's appreciating them for everything they are. It's sort of, I wouldn't say creating disattachment towards their role in your life, but just understanding that you can shift it from a different perspective, and you can connect from them, just fully allowing them to be who you are, and use any triggers just as a reflection to work on yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth. I know like spiritual people, they use this saying all the time, but they don't really fucking practice. Everyone is a reflection.
Yeah.
Anyone that pisses you off is literally a reflection of
Yeah.
something inside, And I find that to be like the real rewarding work, is where you can go through the deep triggers
Yeah.
and be like, hey, can I create spacious awareness
Mm.
so that this doesn't just become another trauma loop? I'm not attaching to the stories that we've had.
Yeah.
Like, I want this to be like a full feeling, embracing moment of
Yeah.
like, the energy, good or bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this brings something up for me, but so also in, this kind of going back to familiar people and people who like are holding this grid of who you were or what you are, there is a tactfulness that like I try to spend a lot of time now with people describing this tactfulness of when you know that there are particular people after a psychedelic experience or a medicine journey, and then you get the awareness, but then the work, the integration from like the way that I think about it is you kind of want to know the context you're returning to and know kind of the individual blueprints of the people who are really close to you. And then if you know that you're not prepared to go back to particular people because they're going to trigger you, they're going to try to put you back where you were, you can kind of segment that inside yourself and be like, okay, like I'm comfortable going back to talk to my father, but man, I have some stuff with my mom that I still need to work out. And I'm just going to take my time on that. I'm not going to put myself in a scenario where I can't handle it yet. And I'm going to be patient with myself, and I'm going to maybe work on my inner child, which again, I would love to talk more about that, but I'm going to be patient with this integration process and not necessarily overly trigger myself if I know that it's going to re-traumatize me. And that's something that I don't think people understand, is like you can re-traumatize yourself by moving too quickly, thinking that you're enlightened and thinking you've got the answers, but your nervous system hasn't settled yet.
Right.
Your nervous system's just not at that level yet. You have to be patient. Right.
Yeah. Let's move on to inner child, but like that's exactly the point. Like when you go to Peru and you go deep in the jungle and you're with a shaman and he doesn't speak any English, he's just there for ceremony. How can he give you life advice when he has no context of what it's like to live in the Western world, And I feel like for us now figuring out, we can really bridge that gap for people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what to you in a short description? What is the inner child? What is inner child worth?
I'll have to use an anecdote of the recent experience, so I can just go down the rabbit hole of this. So I recently came up with a term that I was using to describe the phenomenon that there is something like a linchpin in our nervous system. I call it the trauma linchpin. But what I'm referring to when I say trauma linchpin is that, let's say you do a psychedelic medicine journey and you sort out all of this trauma. It's very clear that you've regressed, you've re-entered this trauma, you've sorted through some of it. And then you think, oh, wow, I've dealt with my trauma. Then you go back to your life, and then your habits, you're doing all of these things, whatever it is, drinking a cup of coffee, having a cigarette, whatever it might be. Maybe it's a type of way that you're communicating with somebody close to you, and you always communicate in that same sort of way. Those are all linchpins on the nervous system, what I would just say holding patterns. So a friend of mine recently who was working with MDMA, doing MDMA therapy, he did 5 sessions over 6 months, and he got a lot of benefit. But then he kept regressing back and landing back in the same nervous system he was, 3 weeks to a month later. And he kept asking me, like, I don't understand. Like, it was so clear. I thought I had really done it. I gave him all the practices. I gave him all the integration tools. But then entirely on his own, one day, he just stopped drinking coffee. He just stopped cold drinking coffee. And 3 days after that, he started having regressing dreams. And he started regressing back to childhood. And it was stopping coffee that allowed his nervous system to ground enough that his psyche popped open. And he saw the nature of I didn't say his name, but sexual abuse that he had been through as a child. And that did not come up in his sessions. It only came up when he stopped drinking coffee, because he was using coffee as a suppression mechanism for his whatever it is. So that was his linchpin, right? So my linchpin on my inner child, this is, you know, the inner child part that we're talking about. My linchpin was my relationship. So I've done, you know, thousands of medicine journeys like both of you, all this inner work, all this TRE, whatever you want to, all these different things, nutrition, doesn't matter. But the thing that broke the camel's back was this separation anxiety that I had with my beloved for a long time. And that separation anxiety, there was nothing that I could do to convince this person that I love that I'm going to change her mind, or I'm going to save her, or I'm going to make everything okay. Nothing would work. And so that made all of my masculine leadership armoring that I, you know, hold so close to me, like I'm going to be a man and I'm going to lead and I'm going to do the right thing. It just collapsed, completely fucking fell apart. And then all of a sudden, for the first time, there was this one part of my inner child that was just sitting there waiting. And it literally had a dialogue with it. And it was like, it basically just told me, you don't need to work on anybody else. You don't need to save your relationship. You don't need to do anything. This is all you've ever needed to do, was to commune with me. And I mean, it was saying it with a very, you know, emotional tone, like, I'm sad, you've abandoned me, et cetera, et cetera. But after that, I was telling David, I think yesterday, after that, like whatever that was, it's completely done. Like, it's finished. It will never go back again. And that's the thing that's blowing my mind. Like, all the work I've done didn't do that. But this one thing that happened in real life with a person I care about broke the camel's back. And now it's just like, it's finished. Like that, those floodgates are open. They're not going back to the way they were. And, you know, I have full contact with the inner child. So,
Wow, that's crazy. And do you think medicine could have gotten you that far?
no, I do not. Yeah. And I guess to Rafa's point, I think it's those things in the integration process that break things open. That's where the real work is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. At the end of the day, medicine, in a way, is still almost a shortcut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The thing is, like, the hardest part about the medicine journey is just consuming the drink, eating the powder, whatever, you know. But really, like,
Right.
like there's no like long preparation. Like that's why I do recommend people to have a base in meditation or any kind of modalities, you know. But yeah, as we were going back to the inner child, like, I also know that our attachment styles and patterns developed from a very early age, like, oh, like even like before the age of 3. It's just already kind of set in stone with whatever happened from 0 to 3.
Yes.
And you know, it takes so much of deep reflection and even pain as a catalyst to just open it back up and just to touch those memories being stored in your body. Because a lot of trauma, we're never even gonna like consciously be able to recall those memories.
Yeah.
Medicine can bring it up, but you know, like, when you go back into your dynamics, your relationship dynamics, it's so important to just reflect and sit with yourself. And as you said, find those linchpins, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're the things that are fucking keeping all that shit together. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. That just brings up, I don't know if David, you'd be open to talk a little bit about attunement, because you've talked to me a little bit about it in terms of addiction, ADHD, this thing, but it's an overlap with what Raf's saying right now, with the mother, this kind of process that happens.
Yeah. So we can take a little bit of a sidetrack and come back. So I've been working a lot with people with ADHD, and you know, I had a mentor who was, you know, a very prominent figure when it comes to ADHD and addiction, like a scientist. She was a behavioral scientist, and she taught me a lot about this subject. However, the common notion has always been, if we're talking about ADHD at first, has always been that ADHD is kind of a genetic thing. Your parents have it, and so you have a big chance of getting it. Which, you know, it's true to a certain degree, but there is some new research coming out now is showing kind of that. So ADHD is because of a underdeveloped right orbifrontal cortex, which takes care of the executive functions such as short-term memory and focus and concentration and you know, all of these things that these people have issues with. But then you need to look at, so when does this part of the brain develop? Well, this part of the brain is developed in your infant years. So while you're in your mother's tummy and during the first years of infancy, and and actually this thing is developed because of attunement with your mother, which is of course different than presence or love or care. Like a mother can be loving, a mother can be present, but if she has some issues, she has some marriage issues or money issues or depression, or she wasn't given attunement when she was a child, then she won't be able to attune to you like really on an energetic level. The same goes already when you're in the belly. If she's thinking of all these problems and cortisol is pumping through her body, this part of the brain won't develop. And if it doesn't develop enough, then you get these things like ADHD and autism and so on. However, there is something which is genetic, because you have a set of genes that are pointing towards a high risk of getting ADHD or autism or depression or anxiety or social problems. And those genes determine your sensitivity. So if you have these two things, you have these genes that makes it so that you're sensitive, and you have a mother who have some issues, so you're going to be sensitive to the lack of attunement. Then you have a high risk of getting these sorts of problems. And then you look at addiction, and you see that if you pile together the right kind of research, you can see that it's like 90% of everyone who has addiction has ADHD. A large portion of everyone who goes to prison has ADHD. And ADHD is genetic. Well, maybe actually it's just a lack of attunement.
Right.
And if it's a lack of attunement, then you can heal these problems, which before they said you can't, it's impossible. And you do so by giving yourself what your mother was supposed to give to you, or your caregivers, which is attunement. And I guess then it's just about like becoming extremely aware of yourself, your emotions, this energy that's running through your body, all your thought patterns, all your behaviors, all your, what do you call it, the linchpins. Exactly. Yeah.
And I wonder what you guys think about, because I'm not too well versed with ADHD, but it just seems to me like everything in this external matrix is designed to give you ADHD. Yeah, you go on your fucking phone and like you doom scroll for fucking hours and the time just flies by.
Yes.
And you're like, what the fuck did I just do?
Right.
And why is the phone, which is kind of like the mark of the beast in my why is the phone so well designed to be so addictive? You know what I'm saying? So I guess also maybe that. What do you think?
Yeah, but I mean, is also the question of why am I so in need of something so addictive?
Right.
Because it's also just a question of dopamine. Because if you have ADHD or whatever you want to call it, is a problem with dopamine.
Right.
And so your dopamine levels are irregular. There's not a lack of dopamine, because if there's something like scrolling on the phone, or playing video games, you need dopamine for that.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also giving dopamine, so it creates this kind of loop. So I think when I talk about addiction, I don't really like to talk about addiction. I like to talk about distraction. And then the term is like much broader, because when we think about addiction, we just think about like I'm with a needle in my arm every day, I'm drinking all the time, but what about this? What about I have to pick up my phone every 5 minutes, or I have to drink a coffee, or I have to smoke a cigarette, or I have to talk with someone.
Yeah.
I always have to talk with someone.
Yeah.
All of these things can be just distractions from feeling something inside of you, like your inner child trying to tell you something. And I think that is where attunement comes in, by setting all of these distractions to the side and just sitting with yourself in solitude and darkness and silence.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just the solitude and darkness thing that just brought this up to the surface for me. But so on the attunement side, also on the community side, when we're talking about how to do the attunement process with yourself, it is possible that some of those linchpins that are preventing that material from surfacing so that you can just sit with it and allow it to process and leave your system entirely on its own, it is possible to do that in isolation. But also, if you really know yourself and you know that there are relationships or situations that are your linchpin, you may not be able to do it in isolation. You may actually have to do it in communion with community or with a particular person, because you recognize that that person holds a particular mirror on exactly what you need to open up those floodgates. And for me, that the interesting part for me is that with darkroom retreating, I did some amount of this, and my partner, she did a lot more of this and got a lot out of it. But I recognized that in the darkroom at a certain point, a couple of days, 3 days in, I just knew that there was a communal aspect that for whatever reason I need, like my nature needs that input in order to move some blocks in my system. There was no way that I was going to get every single one taken care of without some amount of community. And I think on the depression side, the addiction side, it's community and it's tribe that leads to depression. If you don't have that, if you don't have people you can rely on, and you can't be in that deep context with other humans, I mean, you're screwed in a way. I mean, you're just not. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, a lot of men especially, they have this fucking lone wolf mentality that like you're supposed to just carry all your burdens for yourself and make yourself into some superhero. But a big part of my healing journey is connection, is that support.
Yeah.
Because problems are always going to be there with, before, after the medicine. But like connecting with you guys, I feel that support. I feel that space being held regardless,
Yes.
And it's been so healing, it's been so healing to connect with both of you, like as men, like pushing the boundaries of our intimacy.
Yeah. Which we've done. Which we've really done.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so just to maybe elaborate a little bit on what I said, which is, okay, it's not just solitude and darkness, but whatever it is, it's probably going to be something that's uncomfortable to you, something that you're kind of pushing away. Because for me, solitude came quite easy. I can easily be alone. But, bonding with brothers, bonding with people, being in a community, and like living with someone like me and Maxwell, we have a house, we live in the same house. And for my whole life, that's been completely out of the question.
Right.
Like to have people around me all the time, because for some reason, it made me, perhaps vulnerable.
Yeah.
It brought up some things inside of me that I didn't want to feel. So yeah, I totally agree. Like you need people around you. But I think it's a good idea to kind of aim for something that you don't want to aim for. And if you're really just like being around people all the time is super easy for you, then perhaps some alone time is really good.
Yeah.
But if you're just alone all the time, then perhaps get out with some people and say things that makes you feel vulnerable.
I mean, the saying is true, like find something hard and then like go towards that, move towards what's difficult for you to do. And I guess this can transition into also us talking about men's work, because we've been big on that topic. We do have some men circles that we run regularly, and I guess for myself, I feel a big calling. I'm a man in this life. That's just the reality of it. Like I grew up with a lingam, and I cannot speak for our female counterparts, because in this experience, I'm a man, and I know that the journey of transitioning into manhood is something that is so misunderstood, misrepresented, and just like demonized, also kind of like pushed and suppressed. Our fathers didn't teach us how to be men. There were glimpses of that masculinity in a good and bad way, but we kind of had to figure it out for ourselves. And I mean, coming into this age, we're all in our 30s. I really do feel I guess our physical power. I do feel our physical power. I do feel like my mind's maturing more. I do feel like my hormones are more stable, like as I mature as a man.
Right.
but I also do want to kind of set some sort of blueprint for the younger generation, like the teenagers who are like, so like riddled with insecurities, blinded with like just rubbish from the internet on what men should be or how men should act.
Yeah.
When I believe it's just like about finding your own journey, just walking your own path, using whatever lessons that you've learned, and just like forging some kind of or tool or weapon of love or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, related to that is just you said like we didn't have any examples, and it's not our parents' fault either. I mean, that lack of examples is long standing. And I mean, I think the overlap that we all share is that what we do recognize about the indigenous world, what we do recognize about the thing that they're doing right, that's amazing. It's the tribal aspect, but it's the coming of age and the initiations and the rites of passage that they have that the modern world has just completely forgot about. I mean, we just don't have any of these initiations that boys going to be men go through in the modern world. It's not common. So either you have to find it yourself or you have to find a mentor. You just have to seek out somebody that you respect and just recognize how important that is for you as a teenager, right? To just like have somebody who you know is that guide and that leader. And I mean, that segues for me into the fact that we don't have teachers. Like a lot of men now are just, like you said, lone wolves. They want to be their own teacher. They want to do it themselves. They want to figure it out. And they feel intuitively, I felt this way, that that's the best way to do it. Somehow we've been just brainwashed into thinking that that's the right way to do it. But you need teachers, and a lot of people don't have religion anymore. So where are the teachers, the priests, the shamans that you respect? And you say, you know what, I'm going to offload some of my insecurity and some of my confusion about life. I'm going to offload it on somebody who's already been through it. I'm going to offload it on them because they know better about this. And I'm humble enough to admit that to myself. I haven't been through it yet.
Yeah, and I think like just to bring out one point, it's like when you find a teacher or a mentor, like how can you trust that, because my belief is like the minute you start to idolize someone, it's like you want to give them the responsibility of your life.
Right.
When I think a true teacher or a true master is like, hey, I want to make you surpass me in whatever it is you go for until you don't fucking need me anymore.
Yes.
And a lot of people, especially in this spiritual space, I mean, our egos like to be flattered, but it comes to a point where like even like leading ceremonies, right? As a masculine role, people put so many projections onto you. Like you're the father figure or even you're that perfect man. And I don't want people to do that. I feel I like personally, I'm still working with it.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. And it also like we can talk about this after the men's work, but it also leads to boundaries just being crossed.
Yes.
And I want to put into people's heads, like you should never idolize anybody.
Yes.
You should learn what you can from them.
Yep.
But like realize that you're your own person. You have to develop your moral codes, your whatever integrity looks like to you, and develop your own virtuous habits from a place that's here. Like like if someone says, maybe I'm talking a bit too fast, but if someone says like, when you're younger, it's like, don't do this, it's bad. Like, and your parents tell you that. You don't do it out of fear.
Right.
You don't, it's not that you actually know that it leads to a consequence that's not desirable. You're just like programmed to be like, oh, this is bad. Oh, smoking's bad. Oh, swearing's bad. Oh, this is bad. That is bad. But you don't learn that lesson from yourself. And Osho has this great quote. He says, like, if you want to know whether an action is the right or the wrong action, it's exactly how you feel after you do that action. It's not what anyone else says,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. He woke up. So yeah, I mean, same thing for me. I didn't really have like a guiding father figure. I had a father, and my relationship was a little bit complicated. And he died when I was a teenager. So after that, for many years, I was just kind of looking for someone to be this father figure for me. And you know, just since I was young, hanging a lot with the older people.
Mm.
So I was always the youngest because I always wanted to have men around me who I could look up to and who have done more than me. Now, the people who I hang out with was perhaps not the best role models, and I got into a lot of trouble because of it. But there was still this like innate need of like, oh man, I just want someone to look up to, someone to teach me how to do this thing. And then after that, when I got sober, I kind of left all these people behind, and then I went into a little bit where you were talking about, which was just like doing it on my own. Like I'll just figure it out. I'll just like read some books and I'll just, you know, just do it on my own, which was extremely helpful. But I don't think it was until I started embracing brothers that the real shift started happening. And embracing brothers and being vulnerable with them, and like saying things that, you know, might make me look weak. And really feeling like being in an environment where you have men around you that makes you feel like safe and loved, which is, you know, there's just something incredible that happens to you where you kind of grow. Yeah, you just grow as a man. And then also comes in what you were talking about, the inner child. I feel like that's a big part of it also.
Yeah.
That like you have this inner child which is acting out, and it wants attention and it wants love, and you know, it's kind of making your behavior perhaps not so strong.
Yeah.
But as soon as you kind of you start cradling this younger you, like maybe the even baby you, and you start giving this love to yourself, then also I feel like you start growing as a man. So I feel these are the two like really important parts. Is just what you give yourself and what you receive from the men around you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that brings up, so like in a linear progression of, I think we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but in a linear progression of what you're prepared to do and how prepared your nervous system is to receive it yet, in that linear progression, like for me, this thing that happened to me recently in the last 2 weeks, this inner child thing that happened, when that happened, I recognized that that was not something that anybody else could have observed or given me. But there's been a 20-year linear progression of working my way toward that moment. All this work that I've done, bringing me to the moment where finally, for whatever reason, the linchpin broke, whatever it is, I was able to do it for myself. And it did come to mind during this really intense just purging of like grief and emotion that was going on for days. During that process, it was like, I have to give this to myself, but also I have to be willing to let other people see this. Otherwise, they won't know that this is possible. The people who I care about, like you guys and my brothers, I have to be willing now, after I've done it, I have to be willing to show what it looks like. And that's also scary, right? Because like that level of vulnerability, like I imagined when it was going on, if either of you were witnessing it, and at some point I was completely okay with it. But for the first day, it was like, there ain't no one can see this. Like this is so deep and so personal that like I have to see this. But now that that's happened, now it can be observed. I don't have any feeling of like I won't be able to let you see it. But it took a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the ability to have trust for other men is so healing. But that, you know, as we know, it takes time to develop. You know, like I think we were talking about before, like the chemical in the brain that's responsible for male bonding is vasopressin. And how that chemical is produced or heightened is through going through hardship and challenges and good times as well together.
Yep.
You know, and we've been through so many medicine journeys together. You know, like we're quite comfortable just being very physically intimate together. We're comfortable with swearing at each other. We're comfortable with
Fighting each other.
You know. And I think like that takes time and also discernment, because you can't just open up to anybody, you know. You have to find who is capable of holding that space. You You know, that's why I do recommend people, after your psychedelic experience, after your medicine journey, after some transcendental spiritual crap that you've been through, don't just blabber out to the whole world or to someone who's not going to understand, because it can do more damage and close you up in the long run.
Yes.
Having discernment as a man of what kind of characteristics create trust is so important, you know, and like over the years, it's something that I've learned where, you know, like in the past, I'm just like, people pleasing, right? Like you just want to be liked. So you just have to be nice to any Tom, Dick and Harry.
Right.
When, you know, like, and then when they kind of betray your trust or they do something that pisses you off, you just switch from like love to like hate. And, you know, like that jump is not healthy for your psyche either.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
That flipping back and forth. Yeah.
Flipping back and forth.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is sort of related. I don't know if this segues into another topic, but you know, on the side of, been thinking a lot about religion lately, and on, you know, just kind of on the side of this also, I don't know how it is, as you mentioned, for the feminine. I don't know how it is for women when it comes to this. I have an idea. I have a philosophical groundwork for understanding what I think it is. And I've talked to a lot of women about it, but it's this idea that like men can be the father energy. Men can be the archetype of the father for a woman. We're meant to do that. That's natural. But a woman cannot be the mother if she's your partner for the man. She can't act out and be your mother. And I went through this. With my partner, where it was like, for quite a number of years, somehow it just turned into that she was so kind and so loving, but in the kind of the energetic of being my mom, right? And in retrospect, it's crazy to me how that unfolded. I'm like, I don't understand. How did that happen? Right now, it doesn't make any sense. But it happened. And in recognizing that, I went into this process again last couple of weeks where I was really thinking about, okay, but what's my relationship to the Father? And I don't mean my father. I mean the Creator. I mean God, the Creator. What is my relationship to that? Because if I'm channeling that energy in a very small way with my partner, with my family, with you guys, whatever, if we're all channeling a little bit of that, like I have to know what my relationship is with the Creator, with God. I have to have a really strong sense that I'm in communion and that I'm not alone in this journey. And I think like that's pretty high level. I actually, now I recognize how high level that is, because I know so many people, men especially, doing so much medicine, doing so much inner work, but that relationship has never been clear. And maybe it's because religion fucked it up. Maybe it's because they were raised in a religion and then they were like rebelling and they don't like it. That's what happened to me. I mean, it's exactly what happened to me. I was a Christian and raised in the church for 15 years, and I never really bought into everything, but it was important to my soul. And then now I'm recapitulating that journey and thinking, okay, there's something there that I abandoned. There's something there that actually resonated with me. And on a side note, Nisargadatta Maharaj had a really great quote. He says something along the lines of, whatever religion you were raised in, don't be naive. Don't be naive. If you were raised in a religion, doesn't matter for what reason, if you didn't like it, doesn't matter. You cannot abandon that. It's too deeply instilled. It was part of your culture. It was part of your family's lineage. And you need to recapitulate and put that back into yourself.
100%. And, you know, just before I feel like I want to move on to the topic of women.
Yes.
Yeah, I do want to say that, yeah, like people don't understand how deeply rooted, if you've been initiated or baptized into a certain religion, how deeply rooted your soul is embedded into that realm, you know?
Yeah.
And there's two things that I know that, you know, if someone's super against religion because they grew up religious, or if someone's not willing to create a relationship with their parents, I feel like that's avoiding healing completely.
Yes.
You know, because you have to go back there. Because similar, my medicine journey after psychedelics, it's like fuck the church. And then the more I mature, I'm like, no, man, there's something fucking there that I have to work through. There's some karmas associated with this religion that I have to work through in order to be fully liberated myself. You know?
Wow.
And I did start going back to the church Start enjoying masses like in a different context, in a different perspective altogether, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about God before we get to women. I feel like same, bro. Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, when we grow up, we kind of get this very simple, empty idea of what God is, right? And especially like we grew up as Christians, it's kind of, there's a guy up in the sky and he's controlling everything. And as soon as you grow up a little bit, you're like, well, that's probably not true.
Mm.
And then you kind of abandon the whole idea. But I feel like plant medicine has been a big part of it, but also just my spiritual practice of discovering God as something like so much more than just that. It's really like becoming intimate with reality, becoming intimate with like everything around you. And I mean, my practice and also the things I talk about is mostly just awareness, just becoming really aware. You become aware of your body, as I said, your emotions, your thought patterns, but then also your surroundings. And you kind of start realizing that, well, it's not like some things are sacred. It's not like some things are God and some things are beautiful. It's like everything.
Yeah.
Everything, every fucking thing is God. And like learning how to see the beauty in the dark and in the ugly and in the discarded. I feel like that's like a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
You know, because it's very easy to you go to temples and there's all these like beautiful things, and there's images of these deities and gods, and you praise them and so on. But what about seeing God in the slums? What about seeing God in the eyes when you're working with someone who is, who's like really deep in the gutter, who have addiction and trauma, and is just destroyed? I mean, to see the beauty in all of it.
Yeah, and like to take it up a notch, like seeing God in a fucking murderer, seeing God in a rapist, seeing God in the most dirty aspects of human nature that you can think of. Like, and I wouldn't push it. I wouldn't say just love straight away, but
Right.
try and create that awareness where you don't judge it as good or evil, right or wrong.
Yes.
I think that's also like an important part of the.
Well, so but absolutely, that's when you also. So you create this awareness and you realize, oh, God is all around me. And then you're like, well, what am I? So, then we kind of come to this concept of non-duality and like realizing that we're all just part of this big play, which is the creator. And I'm a fraction of it.
Yeah, fragment.
I'm a little fragment of it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I was just going to add to what you were both saying, which is just the idea of discarding. Like the idea that perhaps, and I'm fully convinced of this, but it's hard to prove, but perhaps what we discard, let's just call it the shadow elements of ourselves that we discard, whatever we're discarding and not willing to feel and look at, let's say the deepest hell realm that you can imagine, people don't want to see it and feel it because they think it's freestanding and that it actually exists somewhere. But actually, it could be the case that the reason it's there is because it's everything that everybody is discarding from themselves. The reason it's there and the reason we have rapists and pedophiles and murderers is because we're discarding these people. We're discarding this energy. We're othering these people. And in othering them, we add gasoline to that energy. We make that energy stronger.
Yeah. Another Ram Dass quote, hippies create police, police create hippies. The minute you oppose something, you're giving them energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what people don't practice enough. Really,
Yeah.
Like we get so caught up with the fucking media of who's right, who's wrong. This guy's a piece of shit. That guy's great. But at the end of the day, it just causes separation.
Right.
Exactly.
And this is something that we talk about, and also our friend James talks about a lot as well.
Yeah.
It's like people who are too certain in their beliefs. For example, like I as you guys know, we all have done at least 1,000 ceremonies of different medicines. I work with ayahuasca. I can tell you like how I hold that space, the initiations I've been through.
Mm.
But there's also a side of me at the end of the day, which is like, do I really know what the fuck is going on? I
Yeah.
don't.
Yes.
I fucking don't. And that is the mystery, you
Yep.
know? And people who are so certain now it's like this, God is like this, ayahuasca means this. And if there's so much extreme beliefs, whether you're left or you're right or you're up or you're down, to me, those type of people, I want to stay the fuck away. I can't handle that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you don't like coffee, but like at least like be okay with me drinking it, you know? Like
Right.
fuck, you know?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
No, I feel that too.
But yeah. So can we talk about women now? I don't know. It's right. Yeah, sounds good so far. Yeah, like this is another thing, right? That man I never taught is how to understand the feminine nature.
Oof.
And I definitely am not claiming to know anything.
Me either.
Know anything.
Yeah.
I think God is more feminine than not because it's a mystery to me.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I
And
feel that.
like they live in a completely different world.
Frequency, everything.
Everything.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I think a big journey about men is not trying to control the feminine,
Yes.
but just like keeping frame
Yes.
and riding the waves of what they go through, you know.
Frame is the right word.
Yeah, and that's why our relationships are our greatest teachers.
Mm. Yeah.
Because it's showing us a part of ourselves that we deep down know that we'll never truly understand.
Mm.
But it's that there's so much power in a woman.
Yeah.
It's fucking scary.
Yeah. It's scary.
It's scary.
It's terrifying. The most terrifying.
The mo?
Yeah. It's accurate. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I think that like understanding how you know, regardless of your sexual orientation, but how you relate to the opposite sex
Mm.
is gonna help every single man, you know,
Yes.
because we do grow up being influenced on our ideas of what a woman actually is, what the nature of a relationship should look like,
Mm.
and then we suppress a lot of our just our innate male
Yeah.
instincts, power, like our sexuality. We don't even know how to touch on the subject of our sexuality growing up
Yes.
because there's absolutely nobody to really talk about it, you know, because it's so confronting for most people, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and myself, like ayahuasca obviously had a big part to my maturing and my journey up to this point. But another big thing was and just bear with me, tantra, which, you know,
Yes.
the word gets polluted a lot in this day and age. But you know, I found or they found me actually, 2 tantra teachers, Homa and Mukto, shout out to them. And they had me on board for a couple of their retreats. And I've been to other tantra retreats as well, but these 2 are the only ones that I feel safe with, where the energy, it comes from connecting and relating, comes from the heart space.
Mhm.
And the sexual leakiness isn't so present, you know, which is very important, because how we relate to women as well is on a sexual nature,
Mm.
you know, and understanding our energy and knowing where it's blocked, where it's suppressed,
Yeah.
it is going to be such a great tool. You know, if you guys want to speak about that, if you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just, so like kind of 2 levels here that are kind of forefront for me right now. And you know, we were talking about polarity earlier, not in the podcast, but just you know, a couple days ago. And I want to correlate it to this thing I said earlier about this armoring. We're gonna just bear with me as well on this story. But so this idea that there is energetic polarity, there is yin and yang, there is fire and cold. I mean, you recognize this with a woman. You just know if you're in your masculine energy, you know that there's a counterpart, there's reciprocity, heart to heart, and these energies balance each other out, and that's a reality. And you can't get away from that if you want to go deep and you want to be in deep communion. At the same time, the chaos, as far as I'm concerned, of the feminine spirit is multidimensional. It's far more connected in a way. I would say that, like, I guess the analogy I would use, and someone else said this first, but it's, you know, women and the feminine is here to protect men in the spiritual, and men are here to protect women in the physical. You know, so we're here to provide and protect in this plane, but the feminine energy, the spirit, is here to protect our soul in another place. And I've been feeling that a lot recently, like in a visceral way. And just to bring that to the next point is when my armoring all broke away and I felt the most vulnerable I've ever felt, something interesting happened where letting my polarity, letting my masculinity, letting my armor all completely dissolve, it created more polarity. It brought more reciprocity, and it brought more safety. And so then, you know, your mind is blown, and you're recapitulating and thinking, okay, like, did I have that wrong? Like, did I have it wrong? The idea, the philosophy, okay, let's throw that out. But then I was like, no, I didn't have it wrong. I was missing this part of myself that needed to be seen so that I could be whole. And in my wholeness, now the polarity can actually function. It could not function without that wholeness. It couldn't function without me seeing all parts of myself. So even though I knew and I had done some good work with polarity, and sometimes it was very effective, it wasn't nearly as effective as it is now, just on the other side of just a really deep, you know, inner child process. And so, like, you know, it took me a few days to be okay with the fact that I had to just shed this snake skin, this armor, whatever you want to call it, that I had to shed that completely away. And that I was like, okay with not picking it up again. That like, I'm going to just let that lie. Whatever that was, that whole piece of me, it's not needed anymore. And actually I'm more vulnerable now, but I have no fear. Like so much of the fear is gone. And I was explaining to David the other day, it was like when I was like really in the thick of like the crying and the wailing and just all this stuff coming out, I was like, if someone came in here with like a knife or a gun and was like threatening me, I would be like, let's go. Like I had this just complete, like no control left. I'm not going to control reality. I'm not going to control other people, and I'm free. And you're going to blow my head off right now. Okay. Like that's just where it is. And that was so liberating, that feeling, you know. But in last piece on this, I know I'm on a tangent, but last piece is, you know, the feminine fire, the Kali spirit. I was terrified of the Kali archetype. And in my long relationship I've been in for a long time, my partner, my beloved, she's tapped into Kali. She's fucking tapped into Kali. And when it comes out, it's like, I can't handle this. You are going to eat me alive, you're going to burn me to the ground. But now that same fire, all it did was burn the shit that wasn't supposed to be there. And when I finally just said, fine, burn it all away, it was like the song, just burn it all away. And literally it did. And then all of a sudden there's reciprocity, and all of a sudden there's connection and communion again. And there's no fear in my body about it. And so I can let go. I can just say like, you can go your way, I can go mine, and whatever happens, let's see. But I'm not afraid of that anymore. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm a mere student, mere student in this subject, because I feel like I got sober now. What is it? Maybe like 9 years ago, something like this. And before that, you know, all the relationships I ever had was in deep addiction, because I was doing heroin every day. So there wasn't really any learning, any kind of there. I had I had a couple really good relationships which you know changed me for sure. But I was extremely unaware what was going on, and just confounded, like I couldn't understand anything of it. And so when I got sober, it really started this journey of learning to know myself, but also learning who I am in relationship to others. And I mean, man, like being in a relationship, that's just like a 24/7 like medicine ceremony. It's just like it's just nonstop of these like revelations and teachings, and really like being poked at all the places where you don't want to be poked, you know? And this is a little bit like we talked about before, like this is such a pristine opportunity to learn about yourself. You know, that's the nice way of saying it.
That's a very nice way.
Because I mean, in the midst of it, it's very hard. Like it's so hard to just keep centered and see it for what it is. As you said, like this Kali energy is powerful, and I'm still kind of learning how to just sit with it and center myself in it, and take the teachings from each kind of interaction,
Right.
each kind of like explosion is a this opportunity for me to grow as a man.
Mm.
And yeah, but then so that's one part, but then you also have the part of like learning how to be vulnerable, which also has like two paths. One is just how to learn how to be vulnerable with your brothers. It's a big part, but then also learning how to be vulnerable with your partner. And so both of these things, it's been very center of my attention of things I've been working with, and I mean, yeah, it's so complicated, but again, it's like
Sure.
so extremely rewarding.
Yeah.
Because I did therapy also for 3 years, but those 3 years of therapy is like, like 2 months in a relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to go on a little bit, just a tiny tangent, just when we talk about being in relationships, being with other people, and learning from our triggers is, we talk about having spiritual paths. So, and it feels like a lot of people nowadays, when they talk about spiritual paths, they talk about like getting out of here, going to places, and like being like so deeply concentrated that everything just ceased to exist, which is like very beautiful, blissful states. But I recently found kind of my path. I've been a spiritual tourist for quite some time, but now I found my path. And for all this time, that's what I did. I was just, how do I get out of here? How do I make it stop? How do I just, end it? Kind of.
Like, how do you commit suicide without committing suicide?
Yeah, exactly. I just want to level up, go to the next place. But then I found this Vajrayana, which is a lot about this. Like, you have Theravada Buddhism, which is just, concentration, a little bit more than so, but mostly. But then you have Vajrayana, and how I was taught it was that, like, the meditations are just like very short. You just kind of tune in to the present moment. And after that, the practice is all the time. Every step you take, every emotion that arises, every interaction that you have, every time you get poked is just an opportunity to kind of, as they say, like, realize your true nature. And I feel like this is the kind of spirituality that I want. Is like really utilizing every moment and everything that's happening in my life to grow, not just as a person, but also spiritually. Like everything is a way.
Just as a side note to that, not a long one, but just when Rafa was talking about tantra, and you kind of have these opposing ends of the spectrum. But for me, Osho talks a lot about tantra being like the path of communion, right? The path, and you talk a lot about the agoris, this path of communion. Like everything is sacred, everything is God, and if that's true, then there ain't no way you do it in isolation. There ain't no way you meditate your way there. If you're really going all the way and you're saying that the tantra idea is true, it's only through reciprocity and interaction and communion with the other that you really up level or enlighten yourself or whatever, because nothing's left untouched. Like you could be sitting and meditating and having a very blissful experience, but back to the same point, if you can't talk to your parents without being triggered, well, then now you need to figure out it with your parents. Now you need to figure out why is this? Why can't I handle this? What is it? What is it inside me that can't handle this? And I fully believe you can't do it in isolation. I fully believe it has to be in communion now, especially after this recent event I've been through.
Yeah, definitely in this day and age, I mean, like, also, I guess it comes down to your karma and what you're meant for. But, most people who tell me they want to get enlightened, they want to get away from, they want to transcend this world.
Yeah.
It's just fucking running away from themselves.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah.
Just to add on that is what we were talking about earlier, is just distraction. It's just another distraction.
Yeah, which medicine can be. People who just keep. And I guess this is also the next point I want to touch on. But I also do want to talk about, like, there's one more thing in regards to our feminine counterparts, is that, how to balance the polarity. Because as a facilitator, whenever there's sexual attraction between you and a woman, that energy has to be really transmuted.
Yes.
And if you don't, it's going to leak into the space and it's going to just corrupt everything. That's how I personally feel.
100%.
And I think with any interaction with the opposite sex where there is sexual energy you sense, it's important to realize it first and then allow that energy to move to somewhere else.
Yes.
You know,
And transmute itself. Yeah. I feel that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just like all the time, you know, to not be completely guided by our sexual energy,
Right.
by our desire. And seeing that, because it feels like a lot of people, and me when I was younger also, you know, it's like you feel horny, you feel this sexual energy, and there's only one thing to do about it, which is, you know, but actually that sexual energy, that's life energy,
Right.
that's the life force,
Yes.
and it's just trapped.
Yeah.
It needs to move. And once I've learned how to like, oh, holy shit, like this is what gives me energy. This is what makes me creative. This is what moves me forward in life. Then, you know, things start happening, because you take this energy, you see it for what it is, and then you move it, and it is a creative energy.
Yeah.
You can create life. You can
Right.
create babies, or you can, you know,
Destroy as well.
you can destroy, but you can also create. You know, you can make art, you can make poetry, you can, you know, build a business.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's the same kind of energy.
Right.
Like it's utilized.
Yeah.
And like learning how to not spill that energy unnecessarily.
Yeah.
It's been a big step for me.
Yeah,
Well
no,
said.
I mean, this has been, I mean, I guess we can touch on this also. It's like, it's been such a big part of three of us journeys, like practicing semen retention, celibacy, and knowing when it, like, because like celibacy, it can transmute and create, but it can also be suppressed and turn you very fucked up and perverse, you
Yep.
know? And that's why, like, in the Catholic Church, they're not transmuting the energy.
Yeah.
That's why they're all touching kids, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But when you actually transmute it and find that balance where it's not suppression, yeah, boom, it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
creation. And every single man, also women, but I'm speaking for men because we're men, every single man has that. And we are told that it's there's some subconscious message in either our upbringing, our religion, our experiences, where we're told that this sexual energy is wrong, is bad, is ugly.
Right.
When, you know, that just,
And we're shamed for it. Yeah.
oh, we're shamed.
We're shamed for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think for me, like particularly, it's just like allowing, like, so yeah, when I want sexual energy to be there and release, I have it, but not allowing it to control me,
Right.
not allowing it to bring me back into the shit,
Yeah.
you know, but allowing me to be like, wow, fuck, I have this much power.
Yes.
I'm not just a horny bastard. I actually have so much power innate in me.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, just segue off of that, but the not shaming that part of yourself, that power, that sexual energy, and being okay with the fact that you're a sexual being, that actually helps a lot with protecting yourself from using it in the wrong way. But if the guilt and shame layer around it, at least for me, and I think we've all talked about this, but the guilt and shame layer around it actually created more discord and dissonance with people I care about. It actually, because I wasn't honoring the fact that, like, hey, like sometimes we like to have sex, sometimes we like to fuck, sometimes we feel these attractions to other people, and that's normal. Like, that's an animal quality. That's a beautiful animal quality in the masculine. Like, there's no reason for us to feel ashamed of that. Yet culture tells us constantly that it's okay for, you know, for women, especially in media, to just flaunt themselves and do all this stuff on every platform you've ever seen. It's just using sex to sell. And like, we're the people receiving that information.
Right.
Men are receiving this information, and then at the same time, you're told, don't do anything about it. You're not supposed to like this, and if you do, you're a bastard. Like, if you like it, you're a bad person, you know. And it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. But it's cultural conditioning too.
Yeah. I mean, Osho has. I've been quoting Osho a lot. He has another quote where it's like, you know, like men have been controlling women's bodies this whole time, but women has been controlling men's minds this whole time.
That's it.
You know?
Oh, that's
and I feel that, man. And yeah, you know, I do want to also talk about how we hold the space for medicine, because I guess like there's been a lot, like we talked about this before, you know, just because someone is a shaman or a facilitator or a guru or your yoga teacher or whatever the fuck. You know, how he is in ceremony, you don't know what he's like outside.
Yes.
And you hear so many cases where like men in these positions of power take advantage of women. And it's kind of like the dynamic, right? Because women also can just project that role of, wow, like he's the man, like, and pull you in. But men also can like abuse that power, that power of the role they have to take advantage, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so common in,
Yes. It's extremely
in
common.
even tribal medicine communities in Peru, in Brazil, where all the shamans just try and fuck all the participants, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one boundary I tell every facilitator, man or woman. It's like, don't let that energy seep its way into the ceremony, because it's gonna fuck them up.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah.
Like, have your shit sorted out enough on the sexual front where none of this leaky sexual energy is going to come into your ceremony.
Yeah.
Because you're holding such a vulnerable space for people and yourself.
Yes.
And the minute you break that trust, it's all the work's going to be undone.
Yeah, it's game over.
All the work's going to be undone, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, holding space and working on many different planes of consciousness is something that's just the nature of our job.
Yeah.
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 And how we can balance, as I said, like switching back and forth different planes of consciousness is such an important topic to go through if you're in the facilitation role, you know?
Yeah.
Because like we have this body, we have our astral, we're working with spirits, you know, and how to blend all that thing together, all of them together without getting trapped in one plane or another, I feel is the mark of a good facilitator or a good medicine man or a good medicine woman, a good shaman. Walking in both worlds simultaneously.
Yeah.
You know?
That's it. Yeah. House. Yeah. That was good. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of related to this briefly. I mean, just like in a ceremonial context, you know, working with Melinda and working with quite a lot of, you know, feminine providers for some amount of time. There's also this other side of, like, as you mentioned, transmutation around the leaky sexual energy that could arise, inevitably does always arise, because that's the nature of that expanded state. Like sexual energy is life, it's life force. So it's always there. It's never not going to be there. So it's not that you're trying to push it away, but you have to find a way to transmute it and use it in a different way. And intimacy and sensuality, if we reframe, at least in my experience, intimacy and sensuality has been a way for me to transmute that energy. Like, and it could be something as like holding a hand, or being the father figure and allowing the child in the woman, for instance, in a ceremony, to be the child. And that itself transmutes that energy, because all of a sudden our roles are very clear. The archetypes are very clear. And now it's like there's absolutely no energy of any kind in me, because the roles have been defined and I can feel those roles. And also what David was saying, with the sexual energy being transmuted into productivity, being transmuted into, you know, creativity, business ideas. I also have personally found a correlation with doing that myself and transmuting that energy in myself. I've noticed that the shame and guilt around addiction itself has gone away. So like I was an addict as well. I think we share a similar past, as we talked about. I was, you know, me and David, it's just,
Which age was medicine?
just okay. I mean, I was big into cocaine and you know, opiates and you know, that was like 5 years of my life as a teenager, was like every day. But just to say, for a long time, and I never went to AA, I never did any of this stuff. Again, martial arts was my AA that brought me out, and it was amazing. But just to say, I got to this point when I was working a lot with ayahuasca and iboga, plant medicine in general, where I was still had that part that we've talked a lot about, which is there's a part inside that's from the culture that's telling me anything I do could be framed as an addiction. Anything that I do that I think is good for me, there's a part of my brain that's saying, yeah, but you're still doing something and taking something and right? And there's this part inside, but the sexual energy transmutation for me removed that. And especially like just as an example, like around rape, for years after I went to the Amazon, I was like feeling really like like torn. Like, can I work with this and not feel like I'm a fucking cocaine addict? Like I enjoy this, but do I feel bad that I enjoy this? But after working with the sexual energy and doing that in relationships and in ceremony and like transmuting that energy in me, so I'm completely clear, now it's like, I don't care what anybody thinks about it. Like, I'll do rape 10 times a day. I don't care. And then I'll take a week off. It's like, there's a level of liberation of like, I'm the only person shaming me about anything that I do. I'm the only one shaming me. It came from the culture. It came from other people, but I internalized it, right? I internalized it and I kept it alive. So that's been big for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, because like sexual energy doesn't mean sex.
Right.
Sexual energy just is the energy, and what you wish to do about it
Yes.
is up to you.
Mm.
And I think in our culture, it's like, oh no, you're feeling aroused, you're feeling horny, or like it's either sex or shove it back down.
Right.
It's like, no, man,
There's two options.
do something with that energy.
Yeah.
Which comes to my next point as well. Like people that do use ceremony, psychedelics, medicine as just an escape, you know, who are just completely oblivious to the fact that they're not doing any of the real work behind the scenes. And we notice this, you know, like we have like thousands of people every year who come through our ceremonies, and they range from drug addicts, they range from sex addicts, politicians, celebrities, you name it, right? But it's the ones that I've noticed that keep coming back really fast. And when they keep coming back, they're always fucked up when they come back, you know, because they think that this is like a magic pill that solves everything. And I think when you get into that trap with medicine, it's fucking dangerous.
Right.
Because that's when like mania and psychosis come into the picture.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and I'll just repeat what I said before. When you reframe why you're doing something, in the sense that you could just reframe it and say to yourself, I'm doing this because I enjoy this. I genuinely, from my heart, enjoy this. I love ayahuasca now, right? Like it used to be something I would only think about doing when I had to work on something. But now I don't feel that at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love this medicine's beautiful. It's hard, and I love the hard. And so if you reframe it and say, I enjoy the work that I'm doing, I enjoy the medicine I work with, I enjoy my rape, whatever it is, there's no guilt and shame in your system that creates psychosis. Because you're divided, your psyche's split, and you're not on the same page with yourself. Part of you thinks you have all these problems to heal, and then the other part of you is like, yeah, but I actually just like ceremony.
Yeah.
It's like, which one is it?
Yeah.
You know, you have to bring them together.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, this was a big part also of the recent Iboga journey that I did.
Yes.
Which was really realizing this, that like, man, and I, not that it was completely my belief from before, but just this whole notion of like, it's all about healing. It's all about fixing things. And it's all about like, I'm so broken and something needs to change.
Yeah. Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. It's always wrong. And so like, so there's this endless journey that never ends of like, I need to fix myself. I need to heal myself. There's my traumas and there's this and there's that. But really to like reframe the whole thing into like, there's nothing to fix. Like you are the way you are right now because you are the way you are right now. And that's exactly how you're supposed to be.
Yes.
And you can evolve and you can grow and you can shed things, but like, there's nothing to fix. Like, you're not broken.
Yes.
And when you approach life in this manner, then it's just like, oh wow, like suddenly things are fun. Same with like when I got sober, it was quite hard for me to go back into plant medicine work, because it was like, oh yeah, like you said with the rape, like, oh, I'm just gonna be like a junkie again, and people think I'm just like using drugs again and having relapses. But yeah, coming to the point then where you're like, oh shit, man, like, who cares? Who gives a shit? Like, I know myself, and I know where I stand, and I know what I'm doing, and I know what I need to do. And at the end of the day, man, I'm here to have fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I'm not here to just work and fix things. I'm here to have fucking fun. And when I did the Iboga, like Iboga killed me.
Yeah.
And it took me to the afterlife, and it showed me all these spiritual realms and the hell realms and the this realm, and then you come back to your body and you're like, holy fuck, like, this is fucking awesome. you know, to be human, and like there's danger and there's risk, and like you can make mistakes, and you can grow, and you can you know, fall apart. Like everything is possible. Like in these other realms, these things doesn't exist. Everything is just stable. So yeah, man, being a human is like, it's fucking awesome, and just like remembering to have fun with it, and like if you enjoy ayahuasca, do ayahuasca. Like you don't need to be broken to do ayahuasca.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
For
You know?
sure.
There's a lot of people, they tell me like, I don't feel the calling yet. I don't feel like, you know, well, you know, okay, I get that, but also your life doesn't have to be in ruins.
Yeah.
You
Right.
can still explore your consciousness and explore things
Yes.
while being fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's such a delicate balance to know when you're looking at something for a distraction or you really have that calling for medicine. And I think that's another thing I want to touch on is, you know, this whole in a way stigma of being a medicine man that's not native or indigenous. And at the start, like it was, you know, at the start of facilitation, you kind of glorify that role because everyone puts you on some kind of pedestal. But now I'm at a point where, like, yeah, I've enjoyed enough of medicine ceremonies and helping people and playing with the spirits. Like, I'm happy to put this away for the rest of my life. I don't give a fuck anymore, you know. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
What fulfills me is helping people be human. What fulfills me is helping people enjoy being human.
Yes. Yes.
Run away from their humanness,
Yes.
you know. And yeah, and that's why I'm transitioning out. And you know, and another topic, right, is like money, the energy of money, that people are just so like how it's a funny thing.
Yes.
I love money.
Yeah.
And I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I love spending on things.
Yeah.
I love receiving it. I love buying myself good experiences. I love treating my friends and family. I love giving back to the community. Like I cleared so many blocks with money through facilitation, because at the start I'm like, oh fuck, am I charging too much?
Yeah.
Am I doing this? And now it's like, nah, man, if people want it from me, I'm gonna charge them a price where I can do it happily.
Yes. Yes. That's
You know?
yes.
Like unless
Yes.
like you're like
No
gonna
resentment.
die,
Yes.
you know, or you're severely in poverty, I'll help you out for sure, and I'll help you out fully. But if you got a stable job, don't ask me for a discount, man. This work is fucking difficult,
Yes.
as you guys know.
Yes.
It's so taxing.
It's so tech.
We sacrifice so much,
Yes.
physically, mentally, emotionally, to be there for people.
Yes.
Especially when you consume the medicine, you don't get even that breathing space to process
No
your
respite.
own journey,
Yeah.
because you have to be there for others.
Yes.
So that energetic exchange is so necessary, man. And my point of view is like, I don't care whether people think I'm a good shaman or a bad shaman or whatever the fuck.
Right.
If you want me to give you 100%, this is the exchange.
Yes.
This is the exchange,
Yes.
man. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we were all on the same page, I think, with this, but also the idea that like somebody coming who's asking for a discount, they're not taking themselves seriously.
Right.
I mean, they're not taking the process seriously, but they're also not investing in themselves. If you really care about having a medicine experience and you really believe it's going to help you, save up money. Show spirit that you're committed.
Put some sacrifice.
Put some sacrifice. Do what you need to do to make it happen, because that's, and also just bringing that into a little bit of the, you know, ecological reality. None of these medicines that we're talking about are going to be here forever. None of these medicines, like we're talking about, we're in a very precarious time when it comes to plant medicine. We have no idea in 10 years if ayahuasca, iboga, San Pedro, whatever it is going to be around.
Yeah.
So like we're at this precipice where like if you really want to commune with these sacred medicines, like show the world, show yourself that you value this thing that could be gone anytime. Like it could be gone and there might be nothing that we can do about it. And so like, to me, that's like very relevant. That's been on my mind a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 100%, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Money is energy, and
Yeah.
if the exchange is gonna be equal, then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't realize what these people in the jungle or in the tribes do to harvest the medicine.
Yes.
They gotta fucking venture deep into the jungle, buds, animals,
Right.
climb up massive trees with a fucking machete and just a rope,
Yeah.
and then chop it down, beat it for hours,
Right.
cook it in the pot for hours,
Yeah.
and just like, and constantly, you know, I remember when I went to Peru and I made medicine, right? The shaman, you know, I was just getting fucking annoyed because it was such hard work. So I was beating the ayahuasca using anger, and he's just like, no, you stop. And he was just beating it with force, but with love, the whole like 3 hours. And I'm just like, oh fuck, like that is dedication. That is fucking holding the space.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's putting that intention into the medicine.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So yeah, value the medicine.